to a one championship richer Old Bull and Young Calf Boston Sports Podcast. We are, of course, in the dog days. I guess we did complain a bit during the regular season of the Bruins and Celtics, where we wanted to get to those playoffs. We got the playoffs.
Mm.
We got so much action. We got almost everything we asked for with the Celtics championship. Bruins left us out to dry a little bit, but gave us some pretty good excitement. And now here we are. The Boston Red Sox are third in the wild card race. Everybody else is just doing, some off-season stuff. There's a lot to talk about with that, and that's what we're going to touch on. But yeah, here we are. We are in the, kind of midsummer sports blues, and we're going to chat about what we're hoping to see in the future. Dad, how do you feel, Dad, now that the high of the championship and the playoffs and all that stuff has kind of crashed down and we're kind of back to reality?
It's a brutal time. Unless you're like a diehard Red Sox fan and live for
Yeah.
those games, it is rough. And and it's just like training camp starts late. It feels like it starts later and later in the year. Now it's not, it's like almost August before it actually starts. It's like, what is going on? So training camp doesn't even get going till the end of July. And, we just got to push through these times. And luckily, our two biggest teams currently, the Celtics and the Bruins, have given us a lot to talk about with the, like explosive free agencies and some
Yeah.
bombshell news from the Celtics. Like that is not great. And, then the Patriots, I found something out about the Patriots that Matt and I thought they were going to have to do something about it. Apparently, they don't have to. So I will touch on that as well, as far as what goes for their
Yeah.
salary cap, which is quite interesting. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
that's it.
mean, and as we talk about this stuff, we're going to try and hit it similar to what we were doing in our pre-recorded ones, that we would publish. We're going to hit a couple thoughts on the Celtics that we talked about prior. And then we're going to hit some stuff with the Bruins. And then we'll finish off with the Patriots and, whatever else I guess we can find for the Red Sox throughout that we will do. I mean, they are facing the Yankees right now. Yankees are a bit floundering, but like my dad said, he talked about explosive free agency, and the Celtics, I think, had the easiest free agency any organization could have, right? Just sign the players you have because nobody can compete with really your top eight. Because I'm going to throw a Hauser in there, and honestly, Pritchard. He did choke quite a bit in the playoffs when it came to, the finals when it came to scoring. I know he hit those two half court shots, didn't really score otherwise, but he played some great D. He played his game for the most part. So our top eight with the Celtics, including Horford, Hauser, Pritchard, and of course the starting five, is so feared in the NBA. And you know why you can tell it's so feared is because everybody else is arms racing us. And what are we doing, Dad? What are we doing with our free agency?
Oh, we're just making it rain, all sorts of dollars. And, you know, Derek White, Matt and I talked about that all off season. So important to win a championship for the obvious reasons, but a big one is all the extra revenue a championship brings in. Then you can sign a guy like Derek White. Tatum was a no-brainer, getting that max contract. So, I mean, we're basically running the entire team back except for Brissett. Brissett's the only one that I don't think is coming back. So, you know, hey, the chemistry in the locker room, from what I understand, was absolutely amazing. So if it's not fixed, why, if it's not broken, why fix it?
Yeah, right. And you think you nailed it. And Rich Brooks, Karen Reed cover up. Haha, hi pal. What's up, Rick? Rich, thanks for tuning in. I mean,
We don't do
yeah,
politics.
we,
Yeah,
we're trying to stay
Richie.
away from politics, Rich.
No.
But I'll tell you this, I wish Karen Reed the best. I'm definitely feel bad for her in that situation. Hey, we got Jeff Unknown in here. Jeff Unknown, Jeff, you bought some swag. I don't know if your school is going to let you wear it to teach those kids, but I got my shirt. Old Bull's got the one and only Old Bull Young Calf swag. But yeah, no,
Mhm.
I'm supporting the team. Wick and all those guys, Paluca, whatever you want to call them, they can't say they can't afford that massive Tatum contract because here I am spending my hard-earned money on these freaking $40 each shirts. My wife's like, should we get these shirts? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I look at our credit card statement; it's like $120 for three of them. I'm like, wait a second, you didn't tell me that. So me, my son, and her got one. But that's what we got to do as fans, right? We got to pay that extra money. It's expensive to go to those games. And speaking of going to games, my buddy Tim. I go to a lot of games with Tim. Tim and I went to a Celtics game, Bruins game at least once, maybe twice. I think with Wick had a tough free agency. Just thinking about the luxury tax tax if he can't sell the team. LOL. And I I don't know, whose checkbook he is, lighting on fire with this, but the team is successful and we're going to make a lot of money. I think they talked about the average increase for a team after a championship is almost 15% in worth. And now you're talking about that major TV contract coming. So the free agency splashes that we made, the Boston Celtics, like my dad said, re-signing Derek White, locking up Tatum long term, uh, and Tillman on a go ahead, Dad. Sorry, before I go on. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I remember when $40 used to get you like the best top of the line hoodie sweatshirt possible, and now it's just like a
Yeah.
cheap t-shirt. But anyways,
Yeah.
not stop being the old guy for a second. Guys, I need to call a timeout because no everyone knows I've been the biggest Wick Grossbeck supporter here. My favorite owner to come along in a long time, but I am sorry. This is a major villain turn on his part. I appreciate him making it look like he's breaking the bank to bring all of
He's
our
not breaking
players
his bank.
back, but it only counts if he sticks around to pay those tax bills. That's what I thought we were getting. I didn't think in a million years Wick, being pretty young. He's not like some 85-year-old dude. I thought he was like in this for the long run, sticking around and just counting on, paying those tax bills and winning a few championships. All right, good.
All
Win
right,
the
now
game.
I'm gonna
Good.
we're tagging in tag. So I learned a lot. Now that first kind of Woj bomb about us selling the team came out, and nobody knew exactly what that meant. Dan Shaughnessy, I think, texted Wick Grossbeck, and he talked about Wick. Is it okay if I tell the people that you actually only own 2% of the team? Wick's actual ownership, Wick Grossbeck only owns 2% of the team. The rest of the ownership is his family, the Grossbeck family. Wick Grossbeck's dad, I think, is 98 years old. He still teaches at a local university. He's the one driving the selling of the team. So Wick Grossbeck's family is selling the team for estate issues and things like that. So it's not actually Wick. That's one big curveball. The other thing I heard is that Wick is supposed to stay on as like the team governor till 2028. We'll see. I think that depends on who pays for what they need to, and then also Steve Pagliuca, the kind of second in line when you think about Boston Celtics ownership. He said he wants to be an aggressive purchaser of whatever Wick's share is. So we'll see. I think Steve is not he's not that rich. So I don't know about that, but we'll have to see. Tim, talking about that tax bill, 200 million a year for the next four or more years, and it only goes up. And our draft picks get sent to the bottom of the first round. Yada yada. It's not my money. None of it's my money. I don't care how much we're paying in tax as long as we're winning basketball games. This team is deep and young. I'm not super concerned about losing draft picks, Dad. Those late first rounders, whatever for me. So what do you got, Dad, on that with that info?
Yeah. Yeah. So the 200 million plus a year, keep this in mind, right? First of all, you might not, with the salary cap jumping bigger and bigger every year with especially with the TV deal coming in, we might not be in the second apron in some of these years. So that's a factor as well. But always remember, right? There are going to be years where the Celtics probably lose a little bit of money. They might. It doesn't matter though. The Celtics, Wick Grossbeck and that team, in that crew of owners, bought the Celtics for 360 million. Matt, what are they going to probably sell it for?
It's probably going to be
Close to
pushing five 5.5. Yeah,
$5 billion.
yeah,
$5 billion. So it does not matter if the Celtics lose, 40 million next year, 50 million the year after, because when they sell it again in 5, 10 years, it's going to be worth 15 billion. It's
yeah.
not like, so I don't want to hear, oh, a tax bill, Celtics. They lost out $30 million last year. They lost on $70 million. No, they didn't.
Yeah.
No, they
No, I
didn't. They bought it for 360 billion. And when did they
yeah.
buy it, Matt? In
Yeah.
2012. 12 years they made almost $5 billion on the Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, and I know it's 2002, by the way. It was 2002, not 2012. They were there for the 2008 championship. But so, Dad,
No,
don't
they
look at the
weren't.
chat. There, yeah, I'm looking. What are you talking
This was
about?
Wick's
Grossbeck
first
founded.
championship.
No, Highland Capital Partners. Grossbeck founded and led the group Boston Basketball Partners LLC that bought the Boston Celtics for 360 million in 2002. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, I thought it was
This
12. All right,
Yeah,
so
360 and I we're gonna have to see how many shares they're selling, what percentage they're selling. But you're right, Dad. The money, there's almost nothing that appreciates more than sports franchises in America, especially football and basketball. Basketball is coming for football in a lot of ways. I think it's an awesome product that they're putting out there. The parity in the league, the skill in the league is
yeah.
very impressive. And speaking of that skill and that kind of spreading it out, my dad had another point he wanted to talk about, and was that was the 76ers free agency. And my dad had a question of, now are the 76ers the top competition over the Knicks? Let's talk about what they've added since the last time we talked. Paul George, Caleb Martin, which is a sleeper because that guy, for some reason, cannot miss a three in the playoffs, especially against us. They added him. They got rid of Tobias Harris. That is probably one of their biggest addition by subtractions. They
He's
they
there,
did
Marcus
lose.
Smart. Just drag the
Yeah,
team down.
yeah, they did
Yeah.
lose Batum, so that's kind of a curveball. My dad for some reason was high on Batum. I wasn't a big deal. Batum actually kind of ignited them in that series against the Knicks. I think he almost
Did.
won him a game, kind of like how Grant Williams won Game 6 for us or Game 5 for us, like against the Bucks a couple years ago. Just couldn't miss a three. They added Andre Drummond, but he's kind of a shell of himself. Who am I missing, Dad, for that team?
I can't remember the other guy they added, but really the big thing is that they have a legit big three. And no, Tim Hilliard, I get you. Paul George, Paul George
Paul
is still
George.
pretty good when he plays. He's not bad. I mean, I'd rather have him than Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard can't stay on the court. So they broke that up. Paul George with Embiid and Maxi's ascending. He's one of those guys. He gets better every year. And again, they're not on the Celtics level. I still think the Celtics will take care of the business when it comes to playing them. But I mean, did they pass the Knicks, you think, Matt? With their Knicks have a really good starting five now.
No, I think there's no way the 76ers pass the Knicks here. And I think a lot of it
Okay.
comes to what you just said, right? Paul George is great when he plays. Paul George, uh, he was on the Clippers for 5 years. Only one of those years he played more than 56 games. Only one.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, from the postseason standpoint, they needed him to be something special with Kawhi out, and he pretty much let like Derrick Jones Jr. own him the entire series against the Mavericks, and they got smoked. Paul George used to be called Playoff P when he was in Indiana. I don't think he's that anymore. I don't see him being the difference maker, and I that entire teamed him. Haha, Embiid when he's not injured. When he's not injured, Dad, what happened to Porzingis? What happens when you get these guys with the caveat of when they're not injured? What is the inevitable? It seems like they get
It
injured.
feels like they get injured. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
you're right, Matt. They're gonna need a lot of the stars to align, the planets to align, all that stuff. They're gonna need to go into the playoffs healthy. Embiid, not just with Embiid, there's two factors. It's not just his health. Is he going in fresh? Because that dude, he just runs out of gas every year. That guy, his conditioning is never great. He's like the center, like Luka Doncic. He's very similar in
yeah,
that regard, where he's just never in great shape. And so they need Embiid to be fully healthy going into the playoffs, uh, rested and like not running out of gas. They need Paul George to be completely healthy. And Maxi, he's still young. He plays a lot of games. He's not a worry.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, hey, they have talent. But yeah, the Knicks, they have a grittier factor to them, and they emphasize more defense and toughness. and they've added a little bit of scoring with their recent addition. So yeah, I still think the Knicks are ahead of the.
Yeah, they're a more complete team. I think the Knicks are more like the Celtics, where they're less, top heavy than the 76ers, and they have that depth. And I think that's something that's going to really hurt the 76ers. I mean, Embiid cannot play 48 minutes a game. He's just not built for that. So I think he's going to be able to, and the Knicks depth is I think is going to get to him, and that's just not something I see the 76ers being able to match like we're going to be able to match. Now, I have a question, Dad, about Porzingis. Right, this injury, Latvia was just bounced from the Olympic, I think, conversation. And it made me realize that Porzingis was probably going to be playing in those games. Are
Mhm.
you, would you have rather, Dad, had Porzingis have this injury in hindsight, knowing that we won the championship? Or would you rather have had him finish the championship healthy and play in these Olympics?
Um,
There's a good chance he makes it through to the
he-
Olympics without getting injured, right? But what happens to these
there
kind of players?
is.
What if, you know,
I don't want to change history, right? Because history went
yeah,
our way. And another thing is that's something we have to always fall back on, right? We won this championship basically without Porzingis. So next year, if we do have a healthy Porzingis in the playoffs, it's like, you know,
game over.
we should roll again. I'm sorry, like we should really roll. I mean, to for us to dominate and go 16-3 without really Porzingis is just amazing. So I wouldn't tinker with history. If I had my way, Holiday and Tatum would not be playing for Team
I know.
USA. I'm glad Jalen Brown did not
Yeah.
get selected. I don't want. I mean, I'm hoping they both kind of like tweak their ankle a little bit and they have to sit out. Like I don't want them near. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, America. I love you. And I don't want my Celtics playing on that damn Olympic team. So,
Yeah,
Matt, what about the
playing the
first round pick?
so really quickly before we get the first round pick, Tim said playing the Olympics and not get injured. I would love for him to be able to represent country and not get injured. But I also I kind of like the fact that Porzingis doesn't have to worry about getting injured from now until like December. So I'm hoping that that benefits him, and that we can kind of make up for that. And one way we're going to make up for it is like my dad said, their first round pick, Sheehan kid, Baylor Sheehan. He like everyone was like, oh, you got to take the kid from Duke, the Filipowski guy, the guy who got like, you know, uh, eaten by a cougar. Everyone's talking about his girlfriend's like 10 years older than him, all that drama. But everyone wanted the Filipowski kid. This other guy, I guess he plays the big man role, 6'6". He's 24 years old. I think he's almost as old as Pritchard, if not like as old as Pritchard was when he came in the league. We're hoping, I think, for something similar to the Jamie Jaquez guy from the Miami Heat. I think he has a 6'9" wingspan. He's like 6'6" and like 0.8. So he can also shoot the three. I think what we looked at prior to the podcast were his 3-point percentage, and it wasn't just a small volume. So at Creighton last year, he had 8.3 threes attempted per game, which is a lot of threes, and he was hitting those at a 38% rate. So that's really good for us. If he can hit those threes, play that kind of big man, Grant Williams esque role and hit the threes, I'm not going to be mad at that. How do you feel about that pick, Dad? That was kind of even surprised because with the tax, I think he's like almost $9 or more million because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the pick. I kind of wanted them to go with the Duke center, but I guess there's like some weird things going on with that guy. I'm not going to get into it, because we could have just used the center more. Like that center, I guess he's a 3-point shooter too, and he can guard a little bit on the perimeter. So I think that would have been a better fit if this guy didn't have some weird other stuff going on. But this guy, basically, a lot of you on can remember this, you youngins. He reminds me of Dino Raja. But except this guy can shoot threes. But back then nobody shot volume threes. But this guy is like very similar to Dino Raj. A lot of fadeaway mid-range jumpers, craftiness around the basket, pretty good passer, and an above average rebounder for his size. So I mean, I think he could. He's got 4 years experience in college, so there's not much ceiling there. This is basically he might improve a little bit when he gets in the NBA, but I think he could be a legitimate, kind of a possible Hauser, but who's a better rebounder and a little bit also
Yeah,
more
yeah,
engaged around the basket
yeah,
and more
maybe better
useful
with the
around the
ball in his
basket.
hands. Hauser, is kind of the if you're gonna parlay anything, just parlay Hauser under 2 assists. It was guaranteed almost every single game. That guy could not play make, and I guess this
Yeah.
guy is supposed to be a little bit of a playmaker himself. So it's all going to be super interesting with this guy. I
Yes.
think we're going that route of, hey, we got a veteran team. Let's draft these veterans. We don't need too many farms, farm kind of rising stars. Speaking of the one guy we did invest in who was and is very young, and that's Jordan Walsh. So he turned 20 4 months ago. So he's 20 turned 20 this year. He
Mhm.
was a big part of that main Celtics team that went to the championship against the Oklahoma City farm team. They ended up losing, but while on that team, he shot 36% from three with six attempts per game. And really what his selling point is his just absolutely ferocious defense. So Jordan Walsh is he looks
Yep.
like people say like a Slenderman. I don't know if your kids play video games. He's 6'6". He's 6'6". His wingspan should be 6'6". Can you take a guess at what his wingspan is?
It's ridiculous. I
It's
think it's like
7'3".
7'2"
It's 7'3".
or something.
So is that 9
7'3", yeah,
inches longer than it's
yeah,
supposed to? His arms go out 9 inches wider than they're supposed to,
yeah.
which is absolutely massive. And I mean, it's
It's
really kind of,
insane.
I'm not saying he's Kawhi Leonard, right? But that's the kind of thing that makes Kawhi Leonard this special defender, right? Hand size and wingspan, right? Even though you're not, 6'10", but if you have the wingspan, I don't even know. I'd have to see if he has like a longer wingspan than Horford or somebody. So it's so we'll see what he
Yeah.
brings up. Yeah.
He's gonna be a part. I think he could crack the rotation simply for his defense, right? If he just doesn't look completely lost offensively and he improves a little bit even more in the offseason with his three-point shooters, and it's encouraging that he's up to 36% from three. Because let me tell you something, that guy did not shoot threes. He's very similar to Horford, where Horford just all of a sudden in the middle of his career decided I need to start shooting threes if I want to survive in this league. So this kid has just started shooting threes. He's already up to 36%. That's encouraging. So if he spends this offseason, gets that up to 38% with his defense, he will be a factor and he will be in the rotation.
Yeah.
So,
So,
absolutely.
we talked about the Celtics a bunch. Any other final thoughts to add on the Celtics?
Yep.
No? All
No,
right, so
let's jump
hopefully
into the
Tim's still here because this
Bruins.
is Tim's kind of wheelhouse, and I think Tim's going to have a lot of thoughts around this Celtics team. And I'm sorry, with this Bruins team. So two big free agents, and I think I talked to Tim about this, and I've talked to many of my buddies about this, but I don't think I can be much more happier with this free agency. We had to go out, we had to make a splash. Going into free agency, it was looking very bleak for us. The Guetzel guy that the Hurricanes acquired at the trade deadline, one of the best wingers available. He had his rights traded to Tampa, so you knew he was going there. Um, the other guy who was a top guy, I'm blanking on his name. There was a few different names that kind of came off the board, and it didn't look like we were going to be able to get anybody. And then we ended up getting, I think, probably two of the better guys remaining out of that group. Right, Dad? Oh, Reinhardt. Reinhardt went back to Florida.
Yeah. So, you know, I, this defenseman, God, I mean, how do you not love him when you see that highlight reel of him absolutely just murdering people on the ice? Like, I don't know how they even are alive after they get hit by this guy. He's just a Mack truck on skates. So I love that about him. I think he's going to be a big factor in the playoffs defensively. And this is, man, that's why this Allmark trade really pisses me off. I would have rather have spent that 5.5 million a year on Bertuzzi. I just And I like that defenseman. I want him on this team, but if you held a gun to my head and I'd rather have Lindholm and Bertuzzi. Now we have legit top 2 lines, and that's what Bertuzzi went for. He went for 5.5 million. But, that crap Allmark trade where we didn't play hardball and just simply get the first round pick, and that's it. We want first round pick, you get Allmark. No, we're not taking any of your junk. We're not taking any of your salary. There's the 5 million right there. We could have had Bertuzzi, we could have had Lindholm, and this defenseman. What's his name, Matt? What is it?
Zabarov,
Can never remember. I'm
Nikita
so bad with names.
Zadarov,
It's terrible.
Zadarov.
Zabarov.
Yeah,
Yeah. But I mean, I still don't think they have enough scoring. And that was my biggest complaint last year. And I feel like that's what showed up in the Florida series. Well, I think we got like 7 goals in the last, I don't know, 5 games against Florida after that first game explosion. We just need more scoring. I don't know where it's coming from now, man. They better give Lysol a chance. They better give some young players a chance to see if they can thrive because we are once again still lacking scoring.
Yeah, and like Tim said, we had to get a center. We got a center. I mean, if you told me going, yeah, I
Like
mean,
that. I
kind of
like
one of those things
Lindholm.
where you have to think about it in
Yep.
hindsight. If you said going into this, free agency, we were going to walk out of here with Lindholm and this Nikita, Zadorov guy, I would say, okay, a lot of our opponents didn't get too much better. Um, the Panthers didn't really add anybody. I think they're probably actually going to end up losing a couple guys here. The Lightning lost lost Stamkos. I know he's kind of a shell of himself. He went with a crazy contract to Nashville. So the Marshall, yeah,
He's been
the
good
the
still, even though
Marshall
he's old.
guy, he's
Yeah.
also gone or whatever. He's with
Mhm.
Nashville. I don't know if this will let me play this, but real quick, just going to show you one hit. This is the first hit. I look up this Nikita Zadorov guy, his hits, and it's an 8 minute and 30 seconds video, which is insane. He I Bang. I mean, the stick goes up,
I love the stick.
bang.
The stick almost went through the roof. I got like get the
Oh,
defibrillator out.
oh,
Like that poor guy. Call his mother. Look, that guy. Call
that
that guy's mother. Tell him I'm
that
sorry
was
your son's dead. He died in a hockey game. Like,
ah,
holy cow. So I want that guy on our team, but man, we needed more scoring. Like we lost to Brusk, who's streaky, and I'm glad DeBrusque is gone. I didn't want to pay him that money because he's just so streaky. So we upgraded a tiny bit, losing DeBrusque and bringing in Lindholm. It's not enough. It's just not enough. But Florida also did lose Montour. I know that from defense, and he's a pretty big top four defenseman for them. But I don't know. I hope they can do something to beef up their scoring because I'm going to be crying again. I wanted Omar to bring in like a top winger, like a good winger, like someone a legit second line winger, and that could have been Bertuzzi if we just got rid of his cap money. We could have still got that first round pick, and we could have used Omar's cap money to get Bertuzzi. Now you're talking, right? You're at Lindholm and Bertuzzi.
yep.
That's pretty
That
good,
I think so. We
And
got Jeff on here. What's up, Jeff? Man, dipping. The Dean Letourneau kid. I completely agree. 6'7". Uh, I think he
yeah,
plays center.
me too.
Um, I think one of the biggest things that people complain about is just how a lot of his stats, really good stats, are against kind of bad competition. But that just still, I mean, he put up
They are.
127 points in 56 games. I mean, that's just bonkers. I mean, the hope is we can see him kind of in some action in the next year or two, and we don't sit on him too long like Lysol. Lysol scares me, but then I see what happened with Patra, who showed up, I think, to the the rookie camp this year, or the development camp, which I really respected a lot of because
Yeah.
he's gonna get ice time with the main team. So that was the real leadership skills. I would have liked to see Lysol kind of set a step up and maybe do something similar. But the Dean Letourneau kid, I'm hoping that he can start paying dividends earlier than later because, like my dad said, the scoring is kind of tough. And Tim, I think there are some development pieces that are coming through, like Letourneau. The Merkelov kid, we almost did like a whole episode on that guy last year because of how good he was doing in Providence. He came
Yeah.
up when I forget who was injured, and he didn't get a point, which was kind of a bit of a bummer. But he got out there, he played well, and he definitely didn't look too out of place. And then I think we lose Barzot, or did we re-sign him?
No, I think we
Yeah,
still have Rizzo. I, you know, but so I will say I'm just concerned about the top two lines, and Zaka. I wanted Zaka gone too. He's still on his team. I guess that's Pasta's buddy, so they better at least kick him to the wing. I don't want to see Zaka at center anymore with his crap face-offs and disappearing in the playoffs. I really wish they demote him to second line, but they're probably going to keep. It's probably going to be Lindholm, Zaka, and Pasta on the first line. And I would, if I had my way, be Patriots and Marchand, and I don't know, mystery player on the other wing because we don't have another winger. It'd be nice if that was Bertuzzi,
yeah.
but again, it's not. So, you know, Markelov, Lysol, hopefully one of those guys steps up. Patriots, they're going to probably do the stupid earn your dues and put your time in, get on the third line, which I can't stand. But, from what I understand, they're chuck full with fourth liners now. These big fourth liners they've gotten. One in that Allmark trade, guy's kind of useless scoring wise, but he's a big guy. And then they brought in some minimum salary free agents who they're all monsters. They're all over 6'2", 210. Not going to be scorers. They're going to be good bangers, and they're going to give you 8 good minutes in the playoffs on the fourth line, energy guys, and bang around. But again, what was our biggest bugaboo in the
Yep.
playoffs? It was
We couldn't
scoring,
get shots.
and they
We couldn't get
didn't do
shots.
much. Losing to Brusque and bringing in Lehome, uh, it's not much. I like Lindholm better than the Brusque, but it's not. That's not a
Yeah.
huge upgrade in
Well,
scoring. So
Tim,
I hate to
I think
break it to
Poitras and
people.
Lindholm will end up flip flopping between first and second line. Lindholm is not on a lock on first. Tim, I would love that. And you know what? To be honest, and this is kind of sad to say, I will be shocked if that happens because, like my dad said, I don't know how much Montgomery is going to go with Patra and kind of give Patra that due. I think Zaka, it's going to be Zaka's spot in that first or second line center until he's sort of forced off it. I mean,
Uh,
whether we like it or not. And this is kind of where I wish my buddy Andrew was here because I'm
hmm.
sure he'd say something crazy. Oh wait, no, Tim is about to say the crazy thing, which probably is accurate. Zaka is meant to be a winger. He will probably give you the extra scoring you want on the wing. My buddy Andrew, I felt like would be the one who would say like Zaka is actually not a true center. Put him on the winger. That's where he's more comfortable. Thank you, Tim, for filling in for Andrew and nailing that. So maybe Zaka can score once or twice in the playoffs without having to wait 20 games between when he's on the wing because now he can do that because he doesn't.
I think that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna put Lindholm, Zaka, and Pasternak
Yeah,
in the
I
same
miss
line. That's
Bergeron.
what they're gonna do. So they're gonna have to bump Zach. I miss Bergeron too, Jeff. Oh man, I miss that guy. And supposedly Lindholm's supposed to be a poor
Yeah,
man Bergeron. I mean, I guess we'll take that. We're just so desperate for center help. But the Laterno kid, don't count on anytime soon. He still needs a lot of, and the Bruins just don't generally bring young guys up. I mean, it
Quattro was
was like a
shocking.
miracle. It took Patras being a huge standout. Like, no, he was like, from what I understand, he was so good in
Yeah,
camp, they had no choice. Like, they're like, you have to put this kid on the team pretty much. And, unfortunately, they didn't give him much run and he got injured. So, he did show flashes. He was super sound in his own end in a neutral ice, and he showed, some the ability to set up some high scoring chances. He's a good passer. That kid's hockey instinct. Remember, we raved about that, young calf all
yeah,
year when we saw Patra. So I'm still concerned about the scoring, but well, I mean, we'll
yeah. I
see how it
mean,
all plays
Poitras
out.
gives me hope for the future. I would love to see him turn into 75% of what Patrice Bergeron was as a player, especially for us. And I definitely miss Patrice. And one thing that's kind of funny little anecdote is Nikita Zadorov, right? His nickname has been Big Z. And I don't know if you saw, but somebody asked him about that. And he's pretty much said, nobody in Boston is allowed to call me Big Z. I am not Big Z in Boston. There's only one Big Z in Boston. So I appreciated him giving
Yeah.
Zdeno Chara his flowers. Um, so no, it's there's some big skates to
Yeah.
fill on this Bruins team, and we're kind of waiting to figure out who's going to do that. And this team is we were spoiled because we kind
Yeah.
of overlapped with Chara and Bergeron, and now we're kind of in this weird phase where Marchand's great and Pashnak's great, but and McAvoy's cool, but they just don't seem to have that it factor that we got or really felt with Bergeron and Chara. Real quick from
And Tim,
Tim.
you're right. That
Go ahead.
that was Lindholm was a runner-up for the Selke, which So if he's close to Bergeron, I will take that. I will absolutely love that. And where the Bruins could get some scoring if they smarten up and put Lowry as a top four defenseman and give him serious ice time, that's going to help with scoring a little bit too. They buried that kid on the third defensive pairing. I'm going to be really pissed about that because he showed in the playoffs he was the only defenseman we had that was calm in his zone, could get the puck out of the zone, and was an offensive force because we know McAvoy wasn't, that's for sure, with the way he struggled. So, hopefully they're smarting up and they put Lowry maybe, at least in the top four. Give him like equal minutes to the first line. So that could help a little bit too. But yeah, guys, I'm still concerned about the scoring. I just don't see enough scoring on this team to win in the playoffs because you see how tight everything gets. Our goaltending, great. Defense, now with that Russian, really great. Like, no problem there. But again,
Yep.
how many games could you win when you score 1 or 2 goals
Yep.
constantly? Not many.
Yeah. I mean, one thing about Lindholm is he had his best season back in 2021 to 2022 when he scored 82 points, 42 goals, and he had Matt Kachuk on the line with him. And
Mm.
I think that maybe Pastrnak can be that spark plug for him to get him to that similar